Hey, good morning. Welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix. I'm Bill Dixon. Michael Shetler here as well, along with the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham, coming off of last night's season-starting victory over the Prairie Heights Panthers. Coach Everingham, thanks for being with us today.
Yep, glad to be here. Looking forward to talking about our team and our season.
You had a lot of good things last night. The basketball team looked further developed than you would have expected for a first game of the year.
Yeah, no question. And, just like everybody else, we're battling, COVID and close contacts and things of that nature. We lost our we lost our last week of conditioning due to a 2-week quarantine, a 14-day quarantine. Then we lost our first week of practice. And so, back in the olden days, you practice like 3 or 4 weeks before your first game. In today's day and age, the way, the schedule works, you get about 2 weeks of practice, to get ready for your season. And we only had about 1 week, so maybe a week and a half to get ready for our first game. And so I was really proud of our guys, the way we came out and competed. We looked like a basketball team for a large portion of the game. But certainly you could see the kind of effects from not being able to have that full 2 weeks. But again, I think we played hard, and sometimes that kind of makes up for some of the mistakes that you're making. So really proud of our guys for getting the win tonight.
Coach, that actually brings up a question I was going to ask. You kind of mentioned losing track of some conditioning opportunities and stuff. And with this kind of COVID 2020 season, I was just curious, what was your message to the guys kind of prior to the season? And we've had a couple postponements already. Fairfield was postponed. So what was your message to the guys about like how the season is going to go, and then just the season in general?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the COVID, stuff, it's one of those things that it doesn't matter, who you are. I mean, it's nationwide, worldwide. We're really excited that we have the ability to go play. We things, obviously the fans are less. There's a few restrictions out there, but the kids get a chance to play. So I heard somebody on TV say it's the situation that we're in right now is kind of like trying to walk through a car wash without getting wet. And it's a situation we're all going to have to deal with it. It doesn't matter if you're an NFL football player, a college basketball player, or a high school basketball program. It's something we will have to deal with. There'll be some games canceled, some games rescheduled, and you have to be able to be tough enough to kind of deal with things that you cannot control. And so, we've been through it once already with the 14-day quarantine. It's certainly going to happen to us again. I tell you, it's a funny story. We were getting ready for the game last night. We took the floor, and I noticed Prairie Heights hadn't taken the floor. They took the floor late, and it was hard not to think, I wonder if they found out, what happened? Are we going to play tonight? So even right up to 15 minutes prior to the game, it's still kind of in the back of your mind, like, are we actually going to play tonight? And so, you have to prepare like you're going to play, and you have to be ready to play, but you also have to have an understanding, and we've talked a lot about this, that you have to be ready to not play and to move on and not be, not complain and make excuses, and you just got to be ready to play when your number's called, and I think that's kind of the life lesson that we're trying to, preach to the kids right now.
First game of the season always brings out good points and bad points in your basketball team, places where you're further along than you expected, and places where you maybe aren't as developed as you had hoped to be. What were the positives, and what were the, I won't say disappointments, but the areas that require further development that you saw last night? Yeah,
I think, first and foremost, the thing that we have established in our program is a culture of hard work, and we are committed to working hard. And so whether that's practice, in the classroom, on and off the floor, we have expectations of our guys, that you have to work hard. And so I think the main thing was that, yes, there's going to be mistakes made by me, the coach, the coaching staff, players on the floor, players in practice, but we have to be really patient with the development of this particular team. So, I thought the biggest take from last night's game is that we played really, really hard. I mean, we just didn't take. I was really trying to watch the film and try to find spots where I thought we took plays off. Somebody standing straight up on defense or making a lazy cut on offense, and I had a real hard time finding those plays. And so that's something that just didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like it just boom, we're doing it. That was a culture that we've established over the course of the last 4 years, since I've been here, that's just the way in which you go about your business. And so I think when you look at the positives, that's probably the one that sticks out in my mind the most, that's where we're at. And that's a really, really good sign, because I think I said last night on air that it's a lot easier to kind of pull back the reins just a little bit than to light the fire under somebody. And we will have to kind of pull back the reins on a few guys in terms of fouling just a little too much, maybe being a little over aggressive. We saw guys in good position inside in the post that were trying to, go around. We saw guys that were a little aggressive, closing out, and guys would drive around them. So there definitely were plenty of mistakes that were made, plenty of areas of improvement. But I think, from a coaching perspective, it's really easy to notice, the things that didn't go well and your areas of improvement. And as a coach, you kind of list those, and we did that last night. Coach O'Connell and I sat there and we kind of listed those things. But, what I told him was we really need to hammer home the good things that we did. Given the situation that we were put in with a short amount of practice time, that we did a lot more positives than probably what people realized, in the game last night. Prairie Heights came out and fought like heck. They scrapped, they clawed, they pushed, they elbowed, and they gave us a really hard time. And we responded, I thought, really well to that.
I was very impressed with your team's focus and poise. Oftentimes that's something that doesn't come at the beginning of a year and has to be developed. Obviously, you have an older group of young men. You have a lot of seniority on the floor that a lot of basketball teams don't get to have. But your team, I thought last night, if there were two things that they exhibited, it was poise and it was patience with each other.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, and we had a couple guys get out of line just a little bit, and again, you got to be able to play the game at a level of intensity that you just go up to this line, and you just red line it, and you cannot go over that line. And we had an incident that you maybe could classify as going over the line, last night.
But that was external to the team. Within the team, the poise was maintained.
Yep, and you saw guys like Caden Welty. Guys on the bench. Our bench was amazing last night. They were loud and into the game, really in each other's ear. You could see when things didn't quite go well, last night, they were gathering up and they were talking to each other. And so, yeah, I like the word poise a lot. I thought we exhibited, great poise. We were up 15, I think in the third, fourth quarter. They made a little 5-point run. We had some adversity strike, and yet we took that 10-point lead. We didn't let it go the wrong direction. We stayed calm, we stayed poised, and we built that lead back up, and never let them get closer than 10 points. So, I thought that was a really good sign. Again, a lot of really positive. It's so easy. I think it's just human nature to say, oh, this happened, that happened, that wasn't good, you'll have to fix that. Well, yeah, no doubt. I mean, definitely we'll have to have some areas that we'll need to get better at, and we'll look to do that tonight against Angola. But I think, you got to go against kind of what your brain, maybe your heart is telling you, and really focus on the positives, the things that we did really, really well, so we can build on the positives as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Coach. And kind of looking at the keys that you mentioned last night in our interview with you, you really emphasized Keaton Dukes being aggressive early, as well as Cameron Salazar, the junior and senior, two of the leaders on this team. And then rebounding, then you already mentioned playing hard. And I think we can check off the playing hard, like we said. We just saw a lot of really aggressive play that really turned out to be really well and really well executed, actually causing multiple turnovers. I think it was 18 or 19 total turnovers last night that your defense forced, which is really impressive. But I just wanted to ask you what you kind of thought about the rest of the keys you talked about. Again, Salazar and then Dukes as well, playing well, and then rebounding. How do you think your team executed those two goals?
It's nice having returning guards. Cameron Salazar is a veteran. He's played varsity basketball for I think 3 years now since his sophomore year. And then Ethan Carey, coming back after playing a lot of minutes, last year. And then Keaton Dukes now is a junior and has been playing varsity minutes since his freshman year. So it's a nice luxury to have, 3 guys at the guard position that are coming back. And then we fill in some of the gaps that from the loss, from graduation, with Austin Miller and specifically Austin Miller and Ethan Hardy, with guys who have never really been on a varsity floor. You cannot recreate, you cannot simulate the intensity and the physical nature of play in a varsity game in practice. Coaches try, but it's really hard to simulate. So we got, Caden Welty, that basically is getting on the floor really for extended minutes for the first time. Grant Brooks, who for the first time is getting some major, varsity minutes. And even some guys off the bench, Adam Beer came in and provided some solid minutes. Colin Roberson and Mason Purcell. So we got a lot of new faces in there that are coming in and gaining that experience. And I said this morning to my wife, she was asking about the game. We were talking, like we normally do. But I said it's kind of like going to Disney World or the county fair and getting on one of those, spinny wheel things that you turn and it's like, woo, woo, woo. That's what it feels like sometimes, the intensity, and things are going so fast that you can't slow it down. So you have to be able to stay poised, stay calm, slow the game down in your head first, and then start to think about, okay, how are we going to execute against this particular defense? How, what rotations are we going to do on defense? So that'll come with a little more experience as our team kind of gets a little more experience.
Not much of a crowd last night because of the COVID situation. We're not allowed to have much of a crowd. Any role? I mean, the boys really seem to be dialed in, and that seemed to be almost irrelevant.
I'm telling you, and this is a really, really good example of what athletes talk about sometimes. It's like the movie, I can't remember. You guys will have to help me out with what movie it is, the baseball movie where the pitcher kind of zones in and just focuses on, forgets about the crowd or whatever. But athletes will tell you all the time they don't notice things that are going on around them. Maybe every once in a while you feed off the energy during a break and you hear the crowd maybe at a free throw. But honestly, athletes, when they're really, really dialed in, and I thought we were last night, you don't notice how many people are sitting in the crowd. And you don't know it until you're actually have an experience like this where, once you get locked into the game, that jump ball goes up in the air and all of a sudden, boom, you are locked into the basketball court. And you really don't notice a whole lot going on around you. You don't really hear specific voices. You got these voices that you hear that you're supposed to hear, like the coach, maybe an assistant coach, maybe a teammate and stuff like that. But you don't hear the people yelling around you for the most part. And, when I played, I always could hear my dad. I never really looked at him, but I could hear my dad. I could hear Coach Cook that would sit on the end of the court, and then obviously I could hear my own coaches over there. But people would say, "Did you hear what so and so said? Did you hear what they did?" No, I was focused on the game, and I thought that's kind of what it was like last night. I didn't even notice as a coach. I did not notice the lack of attendance in there. We were just playing a basketball game.
More Coach's Corner coming your way here in just a moment with Coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors here on 93.7 FM, The Mix. And welcome back to 93.7 FM The Mix. We're talking Coach's Corner this morning with Coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors. I'm Bill Dixon. Michael Shetler, the color man for this year, is here as well. Coach, you have a real program perspective toward basketball. Basketball programs in Indiana nowadays are not built in 4 years. They require reach well down into the elementary schools. Let's start with the youngest of our young warriors, the Junior Warrior program.
Yeah, we talked about it already, but we experienced some difficulties in figuring out, how exactly our Junior Warrior program, was going to operate this year. So now
that's interesting to me because the elementary schools, in response to COVID, they're allowed to go to school, when the middle school and the high school is not. So I would think your junior warrior program might not be as tough to deal with because of COVID as your older programs.
Yep, and we just had to find a creative solution to that. Those elementary kids are going to school. They are around each other, and they're in session. But how we normally operate with our junior warriors is it's a league. And so we practice once a week, and then we come in on Saturdays and we play with fans, a lot of parents and grandparents and things of that nature. And we just didn't want to get caught in a situation where we had to worry about who was coming into the game and how many you're allowed to have. And so, first and foremost, we hired, Kelsey Freds and Glenn Hefter, who were volunteer assistants last year. To kind of run, organize, and do our Junior Warrior program this year. And they're both doing an amazing job of doing something just a little bit different. And it's like a lot of things during this time of COVID that you think, well, it's a great opportunity to try something different and to see if we can incorporate some of the good things from the past and the good things from now and moving on in the future.
Give us the specs on Junior Warriors. What age groups are we talking about? How many kids do you have going at it?
Normally we have anywhere from 80 to 100 kids, and that's pretty good. That's really pretty good in our Junior Warrior program. We go about 5 or 6 weeks in the past, 6-week league where they come in, they'll play a couple games on Saturday mornings, and then they'll practice during the week, skill development type stuff. And so this year we kind of reduced it down to about 5 weeks, and it's a little more of like a summer camp feel where parents show up. We've extended the time that the kids stay with us from 1 hour to 2 hours. And so we really run like a skill development camp. Now, we still play games and the kids have fun and all that stuff. But, we go all the way down into the kindergarten, age group, So anywhere from our first camp starts at 12 o'clock on Saturdays, grades K through 3. And then we do from 2 to 4, we go grades 4 and 5. And so we have this year, probably due to the situation that we're in with COVID, our numbers are down just a little bit, but not much. We still have 65, 70 kids that are involved in our Junior Warrior program. Once we get through that Junior Warriors, then we move into kind of our AAU travel stuff in January that's going to be going on, that kids will get a chance to play with their school team and play against some other area teams. So we have our Junior Warriors, usually that gets done prior to Christmas, and then after Christmas, January, February, we take those kids and we formulate teams, and then we play some other teams around the area.
So those are like 4th and 5th graders that are doing a mini travel league type deal.
Correct, and
All
they play here at Wawasee and at West Noble. So area schools, like for example, the girls had Club 1 here, they hosted, and there were 34 teams that were here with the girls program that were playing. Probably 8 of those teams were Wawasee teams. So it's nice for our community that we're allowed to host some of those Club 1 events, and teams from Plymouth, Goshen, Fairfield, West Noble, Lakeland, Angola, all those schools are coming in and feeding into West Noble, Wawasee, to play a little bit of games. And the kids obviously, like to play. We give them opportunities to do before Christmas, skill development, really work on what it takes to be a basketball player in terms of skill. And then we let them we formulate teams and let them go out and play and kind of see where we stack up against, some other area programs. So it's been working. When I first got here, that was something that was not in place. And we developed the Junior Warrior program. We built it from basically zero to, we have about 100 to 150 K through 5. And then our middle school program with Milford and Wawasee Middle, we can get up into numbers around about 150 kids, in our school system. And how it works, right? You get 20 kids in a class, and then it gets down, and maybe you have 12 freshmen, and then it kind of slims down. And so what you want to do is create that base that's as large as you possibly can. And then as you start to kind of dwindle down, and you're getting the best of the best in terms of the athletes in each class. So I tell people all the time, I recruit, I do. I don't recruit. I don't go over to other school districts and recruit kids away from their school districts, but we recruit
within the lines.
We recruit very, very hard.
Used to be called walking the halls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And you got to develop the relationship with the young kids, and you got to know their names. Yep. And, I send out every year probably anywhere from 200 to 300 handwritten, notes to kids, and I can check their grades and make sure we do all that stuff. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that go on. I have our high school players write handwritten notes, to the youth league kids, and sometimes you don't realize how meaningful that is to kids. And I was over at a friend's house who had a youth league player, and the kid said, "Hey, coach, you want to see my room?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I go up in the room, and no joke, up above his bed was the handwritten note that I had written.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, whether you're a player, a coach, you don't quite realize the impact that it has on a little kid, when you're signing autographs and you think, oh, this is kind of crazy. No kid's going to really care that Keaton Dukes is sending me a note.
No.
But it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's kind of cool. But
so this the Junior Warrior program, they come in on a Saturday play. Is this like a super duel where they're going to play 3 or 4 games in a day?
Yeah, they play 2 games a day. 2 games a day. And then, we get into, our middle school seasons.
Yep.
With Milford and Wawasee Middle School. They'll play their seasons. Basically, they get done right around, New Year's, and then they move in, our 7th and 8th grade move into Club 1.
Now, the football program at the middle school has gone to a combined program.
Yep.
You don't have that, do you?
No, we have enough. And so there's always, we could probably talk about this for a whole segment about, Milford and Wawasee Middle, and we're in a good spot. People ask me all the time, would you rather have one team, or are you good with 2 separate teams? And the truth is, looking at increasing the numbers, like I said, you want that base to be as large as possible when you're building a program. And so, when we have, about, 7th and 8th grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th, I think we have 19 Wawasee Middle School 6th graders. And we have 14 Wawasee Middle School 7th and 8th graders. So if you do the math there quickly, that's about 50 kids. Mm-hmm. So now you move over and you go over to Milford. Yes, their teams are a little smaller in terms of numbers, but you still have an additional, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade numbers. So even if there's 8 on each of those teams, there's another 24.
So you got close to 100 there.
So you got 80 kids that are participating in middle school basketball. If you combine those teams, there's no way that you would continue to get those sorts of numbers. So for the basketball program, people can have other conversations about other things, but in terms of the basketball program, it's good for us to have 2 middle school programs. Again, we got 70, 80 kids involved in our middle school basketball program. You got about 100, in our K through 5. And so then that's where people might say, well, how many kids are involved in your feeder program? 200. 180, and they're like, nah, that can't be possible. Well, yeah, the math is there, and we're building that base. Again, that base was not necessarily that large, 3-4 years ago. And what you're seeing is some of the fruits of the labor that when we put in the work, when I first got here, these juniors were 6th graders, and we started in saying, hey, okay, here's your A team, here's your B team, and you can take a look back and you think back, well, where was Jack Stover? Where was Gavin Hunziker? Where was Caden Weldy? How did those guys develop so well that they can step on a varsity floor and be productive? And it's been good to see some of those, things pay off. We invested a lot of time, and it's starting to pay off a little bit because you're seeing skilled basketball players on the floor now, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, Coach, kind of moving on a little bit to last night, and also just looking at how amazing, honestly, both the C team and the JV team both played in those games. The JV team actually holding Prairie Heights to under 10 points. Then looking at the C team final here, it was 61-11. So you're talking about development there, and that's got to feel good as a coach, seeing that you have a C team and a JV that are performing at such high levels, especially on the defensive end. But that's got to give you some comfort knowing that you have a really solid varsity team as well, but also in the C team and JV levels as well, we're seeing a lot of talent, a lot of skill, and really big wins also after last night's performance.
Yeah, I like that word development you said, because it is true. That's exactly what it is. We got guys that, down on the C team level, we do have some upperclassmen We actually have a couple of foreign exchange students that probably in any other normal year wouldn't have made the team, but we've been really fortunate to get Alejandro and Luik, who are foreign exchange students down on the C team, and they're being able to experience, basketball in the United States, basketball in Indiana, and so that's been good. But we have these guys again coming up through. Carson Smith's a good guard for us at the freshman level. Ty Brooks is another kid that saw some freshman time last night, and then he got to play on the JV a little bit. Aiden Mons, and so we had some guys that split some time freshman JV last night, and had some really positive experiences last night. And then I know the scores were a little bit lopsided, but you really have to analyze what you're seeing out there, the skill development the time that they've put in, and then are they using those skills, in the basketball game? And I think you started to see that, from guys even in our sophomore class with Josiah Boyer and Jay Finlinson, playing major minutes at the JV level. Right now, Peyton Felger is a prospect, a nice young prospect that we have in the sophomore class, but he broke his ankle, so he's out for 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. So, but he's a kid that's going to come up through the ranks, quickly, and probably one of our most talented young players that you're going to see develop pretty quickly here is Colin Roberson, a sophomore, 6'5", sophomore post player for us, and like any other kid, he wants to push fast forward with his development, and he wants to be in there during the varsity games. He's continuing to prove himself last year and then again this year on the JV level, but we just got to wait for the right moment to strike with him. And, the fear is that you put Colin in a situation where, he's not going to be successful at the varsity level, and you just want him to think that, things are awesome, things are great, and he's playing really well. He had 18 points, I think, on the JV last night in 2 quarters, and I tell him all the time, you're the man, and we're going to develop you the right way. We're going to take our time, and much like you might see in an NFL with the first round draft pick, starting quarterback, where they kind of bring him along, and then when the right time appears, you just boom, and you insert him in there, and hopefully he can be successful. But you'll see him pop in and out of that varsity lineup, and we're really excited about his development.
The Wawasee Warriors, one basketball team, but many individuals, and we're going to talk about some of those individuals coming up next here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix, and CPG-TV. Bill Dixon, Michael Shetler, along with Coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors. Coach, you've got an extremely experienced and skillful group of young men on your varsity program and in your JV program. Let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, your mix of young people, every year it's a little different. This year, what a level of poise and skill you've got on the floor. It's really, really the culmination of all the work you've done over the last, now 4 years.
Yeah, and I think it starts with Cameron Salazar. Honestly, it's like there's no other word for it, but just a real blessing to have somebody like Cameron in our program. And so, he grew up kind of, I think, in a wrestling, family, and he was a really good wrestler. And I remember, his freshman and sophomore year, just being honest with him and just saying, hey, dude, whatever you do, I will be your biggest fan. And if you decide to wrestle and you want to go out there, I will be there and I will support you. Do whatever you want to do, and don't let anybody influence you otherwise. And so, I talked about recruiting, and saying I made sure he was aware that I thought he could be a big part of our basketball program, and we wanted him, but we also wanted him to do whatever he wanted to do. And so, it was very clear, when he, got into the basketball program his freshman year, he wanted to be a basketball player. And so he's developed immensely. I think he started for us his sophomore year, the first 5 games, kind of backtracked just a little bit, played some JV minutes, and kind of had a little rocky, start to his varsity career. But you could see even last night, he is a calming influence, on our team. It's like when things got just a little bit rough, it's like everybody's looking around, where's Cam? and get the ball to him, get the ball in his hands, and he generally makes really, really good decisions. Last night he had his assist to turnover ratio was 2-1. So if you put the ball in somebody's hands as much as we put it in his hands, you're going to have a few turnovers here and there. But what you really want to look at is the assist to turnover ratio, and that's 6-3. So 6 assists, 3 turnovers, and that's a really, really good sign. A good point guard, their assist to turnover ratio is 1.5-1. And so, for Cam to come out last night, it's very clear he's our leader, and he's the calming influence out there. You don't see him get too emotional, get too down or get too up. He's kind of that calming influence. And for
the
him
entire
to go,
team demonstrated that last night. There wasn't. Sometimes we used to talk about a spark plug, somebody that would go out there and just get the team all jacked up. You don't have, nor do you need one of those. Your team is so focused and poised. They're there to bring their lunchbox to the job site and make things happen.
That's a good way to put it, because that's exactly what happened last night. And I said it last night too. I was worried about that because you don't know for sure. And you just think, are we going to go out there? Is this are we going to take 3 steps backwards in our program, the things that we've developed, in terms of the culture of the way in which we play? And I told them before the game, I didn't like the way they approached the pregame. At 5:15 we came in and we went through the motions. Coach O'Connell reported back to me that we didn't really seem like we were into it. We watched the JV team, slaughter the, Prairie Heights, the JV. It's easy to think if you're 16, 17 years old, oh, this is going to be easy. And I went in there and made sure they understood this is not going to be easy. If you think that it's going to be anything like the freshman and JV game, you are foolish. And and as it turns out, that's exactly what happened. And so I think it was a good lesson for us. We got to be better prepared and to come out and fight. And I think without certainly not trying to take credit for it, but without that little speech before the game, I would have been a little worried about the way in which we came out. But again, it's those veteran guys that were like, oh yeah, I remember what we're supposed to do before the game. I remember
those
how
guys
we're
are
supposed to
led by
react.
Cameron Salazar. He's the guy that's got the attitude to make it work. His calm, poised demeanor puts on the epaulets, runs the floor for you, makes it happen.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. And we're looking for a big season from him. And he was a little more aggressive, trying to score the basketball, last night, taking the ball to the hoop. I think he ended up with, it looked like 5 points, but he got a couple charging calls that I thought could have gone either way, So, he played a good game, a good floor game. We're getting him to be a little more aggressive in terms of being a second or third option in terms of scoring. And that's not the role we asked him to play, last year. We had Miller and we had Dukes and we had Hardy, and we asked him to just be that calming influence, but you don't have to look to score. Well, this year's a little bit different. And so his development offensively, was talking to him the other night about, you got to be a little more aggressive, on the offensive end, because we're going to need that, from you. So I know he only had 5 points last night, but I thought it was a more aggressive mindset, taking the ball to the basket.
Caden Welde gave you some quality minutes last night.
Caden's coming along. He was a kid that we thought would play JV at the beginning of the year. And keep in mind, the beginning of the year was like a week ago. so we start practice like a week and a half ago, and it's like, okay, Caden's a JV player. But quickly, through the course of 3, 4, 5 practices and then a scrimmage against Fort Wayne, it was clear, hey, take his JV jersey and give it to somebody else, because he's not going back down there. I thought he provided, he played 15 minutes last night, provided some good energy. He's a good defensive player. He's really scrappy, and missed a couple layups, and he scored 7 points, but missed a couple layups, so it could have been a little larger number than that. But he's a varsity guy. Right now he's our 6th man coming off the bench, and we feel completely comfortable with him, and provided some really good minutes, for us.
Yeah, Coach, someone actually who I thought really stood out to me coming off the bench, which this player didn't really score a lot, but I think he brought just kind of a new mentality, and that's actually senior Adam Beer. He immediately comes off the bench, gets a steal, gets an assist, and just played really good defense. Like, he came in, and I think he was our 7th or 8th man, and just immediately made an impact. And I was really impressed. Senior coming off the bench, you never know how that might go, but he really, I think, played hard, played well, and I was really impressed with his performance. How do you feel about his performance in last night's game?
Yeah, after the game, I said, "You young guys," because we had our JV and our freshmen in the locker room afterwards. I said, "You young guys take note." I mean, because that was awesome. You know, a kid. There's no question. If you sat, and you will be able to sit with Adam this year, he's such a great kid, and he's good for our program. He practices so hard. There's no doubt. When you're talking about Adam Beer, that people do not understand the contributions to last year's team that he had. I mean, he is a very, very good physical defender. And his job last year was to make Austin Miller's life a living heck during practice. And he did. I mean, Austin, in terms of basketball only, he could not stand Adam Beer. Because Adam was basically, when Austin would walk out of the locker room onto the floor, it was like Adam was stuck to him the whole practice. You know, he's just like on him the whole time. And that was his job. That's what I asked him to do last year. I was like, you got to be so hard on him that he gets better. He starts to get used to, because if you make it harder in practice, the games become a little easier. And so Austin's development last year is our best player, our best scorer, and one of the better players we've seen here in a while. That Adam Beer had a major contribution to that outcome. But nobody is printing that in the paper, right? Nobody's saying those things, probably, except for the coaching staff and his parents, you know. So, you know, Adam is a great example of how you can make contributions to the team in ways that don't happen on Friday and Saturday night, on the floor. And so to get him some minutes last night, and if you had asked me before the game, I would have told you he probably is not going to get in the game. But when his number was called, he was ready. And so his job last night, what I asked him to do last night, is to make sure, your job is to make sure that everybody sitting over there on the bench is into the game. We have a defensive call an up call. When there's an up call, everybody's yelling over there. And I thought he did an amazing job at that. You know, so our bench was into the game. Everybody was completely focused on the game. That's everybody from our lower level JV guy that didn't see the floor in the JV game, you know, to Adam Beer. And that was his job. And then he gets in the game when his number's called and makes a play immediately. He steals it from Batchelor, who is the other team's best player, Prairie High's best player, throws it up to Cam and finishes it off, I think, at the end of the first quarter to give us a 7-point lead. You know, and so I really hit that hard, you know, after the game, that if you sat some of those guys down and you said, do you want to play? Like, do you want to go in the game? Well, yeah, duh, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to be on the floor. Well, doesn't everybody, if you have a uniform on, you want to be in the game. And so I can't play everybody, and everybody's minutes are going to be probably different and fluctuate. But he's a team guy, team first, 100%. He does his job to the best of his ability. Whenever I ask him to do something, he just gets it done, you know, type guy. So that's how you build trust in the coaching staff to say, hey, we got to play this guy a little bit more. He is going to force us to play him in a basketball game, and because of the things that he does. So it's a great testament to Adam, you know, his personality, his work ethic, and just really proud of him. So we got to get him on the floor just a little bit more, I think, and kind of reward him for that.
Another guy that really makes a difference on the floor, although you'll never see him that much in the scoring column, is Ethan Carey. His defensive prowess is amazing.
Yeah, he pressured the ball. He made you know, again, Mr. Van Loos, that he comes in here and says, hey, you know, you want to post these online, you want to give away all your secrets. The thing is, we have holes in our defense. There are definite holes in the defense, and other coaches are going to start to recognize where those holes are. I won't tell you where they're at. I know. Okay. The other coach last night started to do some things that Coach O'Connell and I were looking at each other like, as soon as they get it, we got to go to a different defense. As soon as they get it. And they almost got it one time, and we're over there going, you know, do we pull the trigger? No, just wait. But here's the thing. We were putting so much pressure on their guards that they just couldn't see those holes. You know, and so Ethan was obviously, he gave it all he got last night. It was everything he had just to keep a guy from feeling uncomfortable. So if you're watching film and the film's from up above and you're going, oh my, there's a big hole right there, and all they have to do is pass it there. The problem is you got Ethan Carey going, boo, you know, all over you.
Yeah.
You can't see it because you make the ball handler feel so uncomfortable. All they're thinking about is getting rid of the ball. Just get it to somebody else so I don't have to deal with this kid anymore. You know, and so that is a major factor in our defensive, you know, philosophies, that we put a lot of pressure on the ball, and So I thought everybody did, a good job, with that. Keaton Dukes is going to get a lot of the headlines and his scoring, and scored 22 points last night, but he was good on defense as well. And so, we play with more athleticism probably than what we've had in the past. Grant Brooks, being a rim protector, you can see his hands up by the rim. Jack Stover with his energy, Keaton, Ethan, and Cameron. When we put guys out on that floor, especially our top six, you go into Adam Beer. Those are 7 guys that play with a lot of their motor is going. And so if we can get, Colin Roberson and Mason Purcell, that was like about 7 or 8 last night that we put in. We get those guys playing with that sort of motor too. Now you talk about depth, and we can put anybody in the game and feel really, really good about it.
When we come back, we'll talk about tonight's game against Angola here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix. I'm Bill Dixon, Michael Shetler with us, and as well as, of course, the head basketball coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Coach Jon Everingham. Coach, we talked about the junior program and the middle school program. Those programs all run by adults. Other than you. You can't be everywhere at once, of course, and there are a lot of adults who play a special role in making sure the basketball program continues year in and year out for Wawasee.
Yeah, and I think we probably pay them about 50 cents an hour, so the monetary, the money that they make is definitely not equal to the time and energy and all the things that you put into, what they do. And I'm so very appreciative of all the people that have committed, their time and in a lot of cases volunteered their time to make our program where it's at today. And so you can't say thank you enough. It's just really amazing to talk to people, and it's like, yeah, I'm in. And I think some of those, we have some Junior Warrior sponsors, that sponsor our Junior Warrior program, and we'll recognize those sponsors, with the Junior Warriors, and then also at a home varsity, basketball game. The coaches, any coach will tell you nowadays it's extremely difficult to fill coaching spots, in at all different levels. We have, Tim Jones and Andy Kripe and Scott Hetrick coaching the 6th grade team, Randy Smith with the 7th grade team at Wawasee Middle School, and then Pat O'Connell, who comes to us from Warsaw. He coached the freshman team over there, is coaching our 8th grade at Wawasee Middle School. And we have Roger Vorel and Drew Vorel and Mark Osmolowski that is coaching over at Milford. So, we've had basically no turnover since I've gotten here over at Milford. And then great volunteers at the at Wawasee Middle School that really make our middle school program go. So just very appreciative of those coaches. They're interested not only in coaching, but doing what we need them to do in order for kids to be prepared for whatever the next level might be. It might be freshmen, it might be JV or whatever, but they do a good job of, preparing those guys, for the next level. So we're very appreciative of those. And, we had, Brent Doty is filling in right now as the interim athletic director. That's been amazing. Ann Ritchie in the athletic department. Those two have done an amazing job, just with no hiccups, this year so far with athletics, and certainly appreciative of their contribution to our basketball team. They're 100% supportive and committed to making our basketball program a first-class program. So what you guys do, holy cow, hey, welcome back, Mr. Shetler. When's the last time you called a game?
It's been a while. I think it was last winter, actually, at a holiday tournament. I was asked to come back, happened to be back for school, and it was really nice to kind of come back. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be working with Bill this year and being able to work with you. I'm excited to kind of be back in the swing of things. I've always loved this Wawasee community. I'm a Fairfield man myself, and so we're going to kind of get into the Fairfield game a little bit later. But just really happy to be back here. I'm privileged to be able to get this opportunity, and I'm excited for the rest of the season, especially after seeing last night's win. You guys playing extremely well. I'm excited to see where this Wawasee program is headed.
Yeah, but I do, Bill, you got to get him to just some zingers, some Kaz Zinal zingers.
Zingers?
You
We'll
gotta
see.
you gotta put the nail on the head or the
Yeah,
head
and
on
then
the
you
nail.
put the coffin in the nail.
Coffin in
Yeah.
the nail. I mean, so I know there's been people. You got big shoes to fill with Zinal being gone. I hope he's listening at home. I hope he's doing really well, and maybe he can have a guest appearance.
I was surprised. It's the first time I've called a basketball game where my color commentator didn't keep the statistics with a hammer and chisel and a stone tablet.
Yeah,
really. It was refreshing. He went all the way to the computer.
Yeah.
Skipped all that technology in between.
Yep. And so we miss Kaz, but we're excited about Michael Shetler being here again. And I know you guys do a great job, along with the radio TV, team. Again, you talk about Adam Beer and the role he plays on our team that's kind of behind the scenes. Well, you guys got that too.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the radio. Your names are recognizable. People watch you. They listen to you. But you got a whole team behind you, and Mr. Jeremy Van Loo, Mr. Phil Huffman, and the students in the radio TV program that have made this. I was looking at the camera last night. I listened and watched on CPG-TV last night. The camera angles and how they got those things moving, and I don't know how they do it, but they do it, and it's really amazing. I'm just really thankful for the radio TV program and their ability to bring people, especially right now. They're bringing people, the basketball games, and we had people crawling through the air ducts last night. I felt like trying to get in the basketball game, and I told Dodie this morning, I said, that's probably a good sign that people want to come watch us and they're trying to sneak into the basketball games. Obviously, we have a responsibility to control the number of people in the gym right now, but we certainly have people wanting to come to the basketball games, and that day will be here. I don't know when, but hopefully sooner than later. But one last person I want to recognize is our bookkeeper, Angel Hardy. So Ethan Hardy's mother enjoyed herself so much the past 4 years, and her son coming through, that she has agreed to do the book for us and volunteer basically to travel to all the road games and to do the book. Now, you wouldn't think that's a big deal, but it's just as important as everything else that we do. And for me not to have to worry about finding a book person, her son Ethan, who played for us obviously last 4 years, leaves for the military. For the military Sunday, and I know she's going to miss today and tonight's game there to kind of send him off and do his thing in the Marines. So it'd be a hard day for them, but a good day for all of us as Americans that we got Ethan Hardy. He's got our back, with the military stuff. So thanks to Angel Hardy for stepping up and doing the book for us. I think that's all the thank yous I got, man. That's a lot of people.
That game that she'll be missing tonight is on the road at Angola. Varsity time right around 7:30. It's always a bit of an estimate, but somewhere right there around 7:30. Angola, kind of a special one for you, having gone to Trine.
Yeah.
And those coaches, a lot of the folks over there went to Trine. And Angola, historically, a difficult game for Wawasee.
Yeah, it definitely is. Here's the thing about Angola and the connection with Tri-State University and Trine University that people may find interesting. They may not, but Coach O'Connell and I both went to Trine or Tri-State and graduated from there. Played basketball there. Ed Bentley, who was the former coach at Angola, now the current coach at Westview. We haven't beaten Angola since I've been here. And, that is due in large part to Ed Bentley and the system that he had when he took that straight from Tri-State. So Ed Bentley's an assistant coach at Tri-State, and Nate and I are players there. Ed gets the head coaching job at Angola and takes a lot of the key concepts that we do. When I was off of coaching for 2 years, I was working with Angola and some of their defensive principles, and I would go up there and really, really work with them as kind of a consultant, to Ed Bentley, and working up there with him. And now he's gone. So you think, well, who's coming in now? You got Brandon Appleton, who's coming in, who is also a Tri-State graduate, but with the changeover back in the day with Coach Dick Hack and Rob Harmon, there was a changeover in philosophies, and Rob Harmon went to a Grinnell style, like Phil Mishler used to do here at Wawasee, and it's a lot of possessions.
It is.
And so Brandon's background, even though he's a Tri-State graduate like Nate and I, is not the same as what we kind of have taken in our philosophies and moved on into the head coaching realm. But Brandon's been a very successful girls basketball coach and a powerhouse at Angola for many, many years. And I'm sure a lot of those things that he was doing with the girls program have to relate to what he's going to try to do. When you have a changeover in coaching, sometimes you got Ed Bentley, who is a low possession, kind of slow it down, defensive philosophies, and now it's kind of Brandon's coming in with his background. You probably have to expect that they're going to do some things to create a more up-tempo, type of game for tonight. So it's not the normal Saturday, after Thanksgiving game with Angola, because there's going to be more possessions tonight. There has to be. He's not going to.
This isn't going to be a 45-35 ball game.
No, and if it is, that is to our benefit.
Yeah,
and
right.
so that means that they're not doing what they want to do, and that's more along the lines of what we want to do. And so now you could see last night, Perry Heights said, let's crank it up a bit. And we said, okay, fine. We scored a lot of points in transition. We got easy buckets, going to the basket. Dukes hit a 3 in transition. We did a good job of said, hey, if you want to play this way, then we'll play this way, and we obviously beat you at that. And so I think we can play at multiple speeds. I think we're probably a little bit better if you decrease the possessions just a little bit. We played a lot of possessions last night. I worry about our going into Angola game tonight. You worry about our conditioning, a little bit. So if Brandon tries to crank that game up, we'll probably be fine for a while. But I'll have to use some timeouts and some subs, to make sure our guys are fresh for tonight's game.
Yeah, Coach, we've been talking about kind of the skill that traditionally Angola has brought to the table basketball-wise. They've actually won the past 5 meetings against Wawasee, the last one being a 45-36 win last year. Just kind of looking at this game and kind of looking at last night's victory, we talked earlier about how there's been some positives and negatives you can take away, obviously, from a game. But looking at the negatives kind of from last night and quickly focusing on that, what are some things that you got to kind of transition and alter, kind of clean up for this game tonight against Angola?
Well, we have to clean up our execution. We got in a way too big of a hurry. When we had those guys down and we basically had our foot on their throat, we just needed to execute against them. They were in desperation mode and they were coming after us, and we turned the ball over in key situations that if the game would have been closer, we would have lost. And so we had built a lead, and they made a little bit of a spurt, and we responded to that. But if that spurt occurs at the wrong time and you only got a 2-point lead, then that's what I would expect tonight, a lot closer game. And so when we get into a situation where we have to execute and they're coming at us, we have to be able to spread the floor, do the things we need to do to get easy baskets. So that's what we need to work on, I think, is execution, of our offense. We scored enough points last night, but, tonight's going to be a different ball game. The Angola is better than Prairie Heights. There's no doubt about that. They have
it's a big, much bigger school. You're going to have a lot more kids to pull from. I mean, that's why we have class basketball.
Yeah, one of my good friends from Tri-State, and Nate and I, one of our really good inner circle, type friends. His son plays for Angola now, Joel Knox, and he'll be competing with Keaton Dukes as being the best player on the floor. He's a really good player, small college prospect, and so being their first game, maybe there's some jitters there, but they'll have enough guards returning that I would expect them to be a really tough battle. You don't want to make too big of a deal about it, but it's a big early season game for us to kind of see where we're at. We come away, we go on the road after a hard-fought victory last night, and we come away with a victory, tonight against Angola. That would mean something. That would really, really mean something for us to have another week to prepare for Manchester. And, if you want to talk about the schedule a little bit, as we kind of break down or send it off here. But, we don't know how many games we're going to play. I think we're playing tonight, but we don't know what next week holds. We don't know what 2 weeks holds. So
what changes do you have so far?
So far, right now, we did not play Fairfield. I talked to, the coach at Fairfield and Coach Dixon, and what we're going to do is we understand, against, like I said earlier, it's like walking through a car wash and trying not to get wet. We're going to have games canceled this year. And so both of us have agreed to kind of keep each other in the back pocket. And when those games occur, when they occur,
if the stars align,
and they will, then we'll play each other. And
Gotcha.
So at some point we will play Fairfield. We'll reschedule that. So our schedule is online. but I wouldn't pay any attention to that because it's going to change throughout the year, and so we'll just have to kind of go with the flow. I know we're playing Angola tonight, and then we'll go and we'll start to get ready for Manchester next week.
Indeed, on the road to Angola tonight. Game time right around 7:30, and you'll hear it right here on 93.7 FM, The Mix. This is Coach's Corner, the coach Jon Everingham of the Wawasee Warriors. We'll look forward to seeing you from Angola tonight. And this last-minute note, the junior varsity time for tonight's game at Angola has been changed to 5:30, which means the varsity will be starting around 6:30, 6:45, somewhere in there. JV time for tonight at Angola, 5:30. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM, The Mix.